I'm noticing something interesting happening when I post about education. I've been getting backlash to my educational posts in a way that is not happening for my other content yet. And I understand why. It's because we've politicized education in this country. Especially right now, there's a lot of political rhetoric out there about what is appropriate in education systems and what is not. I want to go a level deeper because that's what I do, and think about what is the actual purpose of education. In this modern reality, we've been socialized to believe that education is what the education systems around us look like. It's a place to train children how to fit into the modern colonial constructs around us. Within modern education, there are actually two curriculums that we are currently learning. The first is the explicit curriculum. This is what we think we're learning: math, reading, etc., etc., etc. The second is the hidden curriculum. This is the part that we don't explicitly talk about, but it is built into our educational processes. The hidden curriculum in our educational institutions right now are all about socialization. It's about training children, training students what they should do and what they should not do, what they should believe and what they should not believe, how they should think and how they should not think. The hidden curriculum is what I take issue with. The hidden curriculum teaches children what gender is. This is something I studied when I was taking a PhD class on institutional inequality. There are sociological studies, such as this one, that look into how school systems reinforce gender constructs. Don't sit like that. Don't wear that. That's not appropriate. Ladies don't do that. This book I highlighted is about how the same socialization processes happen for men too. Hey dude, that's gay. Don't do that. You're a fag. Don't do that. It's all these messages about the way that you are is not okay. Here's the way you should be instead. Obedience is another example. The way classrooms are designed in this country is how they were originally designed to train factory workers. It's not natural for humans to sit in a row listening to a talking head at the front of the classroom. That's how they taught people to work in factories, to teach them to sit patiently, don't fidget, don't move, listen and do what you're told. That kind of mentality is what's needed in factories, especially exploitive ones. But we've brought it into our school because our colonial reality, our capitalistic society, cares about creating productive, compliant workers. Most of the hidden curriculum is built around this. Don't be who you truly are. Hide your emotions, hide your feelings, hide your self-expression. You need to look, think, behave, act like this over here instead. This is the part of education I take issue with. This is not education. This is teaching people how to fit into a messed up society. This is teaching people how to sacrifice their vulnerability, their authenticity, and the deepest parts of who they truly are in order to perform per colonial capitalistic standards. So I come to nature to have this conversation for a reason. Because if we can imagine for a moment separating ourselves, separating the human from the superimposed colonial reality that has been institutionalized upon the property, the land surrounding us, we start asking very different questions about what the purpose of education is. I understand it's not easy to take ourselves out of that mentality because that's what most of us have only ever known. Most of us have never seen examples of cultures that are not operating in this colonial capitalistic standard. So it's hard to imagine what else there is. But there is so much more, y'all. So much more. My opinion, my belief is at its core, education should teach us how to be humans. And yes, we need some basic knowledge as a part of that. I don't have a problem with the explicit curriculum, sort of. We need to know some math skills. We need to know how to write. We need to know how to communicate. We need to know some of these basic level processes. But what else is actually important for humans to learn? Maybe what to do with our feelings. If we lived in a culture that taught us how to process feelings, how to respectfully handle conflict, how to rid ourselves of shame, because that's an unnecessary emotion. Shame is often rooted in, I'm not who I'm supposed to be, and who teaches us that we're not who we are supposed to be? Society. So if we instead had a culture, if we instead had a curriculum, a hidden curriculum that taught people how to embrace their true authenticity, that taught people that who they are is perfectly okay, that focused on supporting people's strengths instead of trying to turn them into a completely different person, shame wouldn't be a necessary ingredient in our experience. Most of us develop shame, I believe, through the educational system process, both through peer influence and through the hidden curriculum. being literally told by adults that we're not doing things right, we're not trying hard enough, we're not smart enough, we're not capable enough. I can't believe some of the things that my students have been told by educators in the past. If we had an education system that adequately taught us how to process our emotions, we would do so much to reduce the levels of mental illness and physical illness in this country. Most health issues are rooted in lack of emotional processing. They're rooted in the traumas, the wounds, the limiting self-beliefs that we have, and we keep stuck in our body because we as a culture don't know what to do with that. That is not innate to the human experience. That is specifically as a result of the design of our culture. In my belief, education should teach us how to live symbiotically with Earth, with nature. We are interdependent on one another. Humans as a species cannot survive without Earth surviving. Earth needs us too. Indigenous cultures and populations integrate this into their educational systems, but it is something that colonial has squashed out of us. We've been led to believe that there is no connection between us and nature. We've been led to believe that humans are not part of nature, that we are separate from Earth. That is a lie. I would argue that is the biggest problem of modern society. In an ideal education system, children would understand what it means to be connected to Earth and understand what it means to care for Earth, what Earth needs from us and what we need from Earth, how to have a reciprocal, beneficial relationship. And can you imagine how that could trickle into the world around us in the ways that we relate with one another? In this kind of an education system, our political system would be completely different. Can you imagine if our politicians were vulnerable, authentic, able to healthily engage in conflict, navigation, compromise, etc.? We would be in a completely different cultural space. We would not be hating on all these other people. We would not be targeting and marginalizing and oppressing certain groups of people. Education is originally what was used to justify slavery, for example, because academics were making up lies about how the size of skulls were connected to people's race and using that as a justification to oppress people of color. We see similar bullshit playing out with queer and transgender people right now. In a human-centered educational system, we would learn and understand that there is no difference between us, that there are unique caveats of the human experience, but race is a made-up social construct that humans created and focused so much on that it has become a real source of marginalization and oppression. We learned this culturally, socially. We can unlearn it too. Same with queer and trans people. Queer and trans people have been around since the dawn of time. In indigenous cultures, they were and still are looked to as healers, as visionaries, as leaders. It is only through academic bullshit and educational bullshit that we have created now a culture that thinks it's controversial to be queer and trans. It don't make no damn sense. Nature is queer. So all of that to say, education is so much more than we've been socialized to believe it is. Education at its root is about teaching people, teaching humans what humans need to know to promote and support their own survival. Right now, that is not what we're doing in education. And I'm here to talk about it. So if that brings out the haters, then so be it, because we're gonna have this conversation. It's time and it's important, and the children of today deserve better than most of what's happening right now. There's also a lot of really amazing, innovative examples of educational institutions that are moving in this direction. Socio-emotional learning is a core part of education in many schools today, and that was not true in the past. So we're making moves in the right direction, but let's not get it twisted. The purpose of education is not to create colonial capitalists. The purpose of education is not to strengthen the colonial system design. That might be what it's doing right now, but that ain't sustainable, and that is not the right direction for us to go in. We got to return to human. We got to return to nature. We got to return to understanding what are we really, really, really actually doing here? Why are humans really here on Earth? Are we here to exploit Earth and exploit one another? Or are we here to learn to live an interdependent, symbiotic coexistence? I know which of those I think the answer is. What do you think?